All right, so welcome to the show. We have Donna Einmann on the show with us today from Douglass Elleman, one of my mentors, a former boss, and we're here to really talk about what it means to perform at high levels and making some parallels between baseball and other sports you love and the moments that you have at work. So Donna, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Susan. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I know. I really miss working with you for you in the collaborative way that we used to do. So I'm super happy to have this opportunity with you again today.
Thank you. Me too. And I'm excited that we get to see each other at least through the Rockville Center Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
So that connects us.
Yep.
And that's how come we're here today.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, this conversation, this whole topic began because we were at a chamber event and we were talking about, what it means to be a parent with children that are, very interested in athletics and being, athletic achievers, all of the parallels between nurturing them in that way and nurturing our teams. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your journey really as a parent and what it's been like having a son who's an extremely competitive and very high-performing athlete. Tell us about some of the things that journey was like for you when you were growing up with him.
So both my husband and I were athletic. Right. We were athletes and we were blessed with this beautiful boy. His name is Chris. And he, from the get-go, really loved sports. That made us super excited. And he literally played everything except for football. But he played lacrosse and he played baseball at a higher level. He loved it. I mean, he was in diapers running around the backyard with a lacrosse stick. Actually cradling, which was at a very, very early age.
Yes.
And he just loved that sport. And then he went on to play baseball, starting with t-ball, and again, loved that sport. And we just loved watching him develop. Mm-hmm. And we did it with a watchful eye to see where his passion lied.
I love that call out, right? That distinction. And because it isn't uncommon for a child, especially a young child, to find a love for something, but to watch it kind of grow up and play out. And when you say watchful eye, what were you looking for?
I think everybody has a superpower. I'm just going to.
I love that. Yeah.
Everybody has a superpower. We're all born with it. It's just a matter of when we find it.
Okay.
And very early on, I was able to find my superpower, and I find talent in people. So when I look at whether it's my son, whether it's one of my agents, a colleague, whatever the case is, I'm always looking for their talent. Everybody's individual. They all are authentic in their own way. So you have to, find out what their personality is like, and then find out what motivates them. And then you have to watch to see how they bloom and how they blossom. And then I'll take that to the next step in terms of talent, and I'll look very specifically to see from a skill set.
Okay.
And so, again, being athletic, I was able to look at Chris to see how he played both lacrosse and baseball and where he elevated. And if I felt like he was really, had some talent and we wanted to get him maybe additional lessons because it actually sparked in our eyes. So you can find it, right? But if you have that skill set without the passion and motivation, right? It just doesn't come to fruition.
Yep.
So you just, again, continue to find out what they like and what motivates them.
I think that is so true. Just as adults kind of growing their career, right? If we're making those parallels, you might have a skill set, but where does it actually fit? Right? Is it lacrosse? Is it, sometimes I feel like you grow up with just, my mother was a nurse, my father was a school teacher. That was what my world was. That was what I knew. So even I tried those things, but they ultimately didn't fit for me. They weren't the passion. They weren't the right fit, even though I had the skill for it. So is that what you're talking about when you think about, so your son played lacrosse, he went to baseball, you finally found your sport, right? Yep. You have to find the right home. I love to say you have to find the right church.
Yeah.
Right? You have to try all the churches until you find the church that is your church. Sometimes people come to that sooner.
Right.
Sometimes they come to it later. It doesn't really matter when. I believe everything works out how it's supposed to. So sometimes you need those experiences, right? And then And then it's time to start making investments. So what was that like, investing in your son? How do you start to figure out what do they actually need?
I think they need you. They need your guidance.
Such a great point. They just need you to be present.
Yeah, they need your presence.
They need you to care.
Yep. They need you as their video. I will tell you.
Ooh, I like that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, most kids really, they don't know or they don't feel what you see. Mm-hmm. And you have to kind of bring it to their attention. Mm-hmm. I've seen all kinds of parents on the sidelines. They're all great people, right?
They're all great people, but boy, does it do some interesting things to them, doesn't it?
Yeah, you just can't, you have to know who you're working with, mm-hmm. and not everybody is equal. So you have to, and you want to always support your kid. You have to build your kid up, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't want to do that with a false hope of any way, shape, or form, mm-hmm. right? They are who they are.
Yeah.
So you just want to make sure that, you're in line with them. You can't want it more than them. And there are a lot of parents.
I was going to say, I feel like we see that a lot, right? You can't want it more than them. I kind of feel that way about corporations and how they set goals, right? So normally the goals are set by the corporation. It's the corporation's goal, and they really want everyone to rally around it. But I don't have any skin in the game with that goal. It's your goal. A lot of times I'm not even asked what my goals are. I know you do something very different with your team. You want to talk about how you bring people's personal passion into achieving corporate milestones?
Yeah. I mean, I love what I do. And I don't feel that I'm a branch manager or a sales manager. I'm a coach, right?
Yes.
I'm a coach.
You're a high performance coach.
High performance coach. And in coaching, it really is, it's development. It really is development. So I don't look at it as, okay, this is what the company wants to achieve, and this is now what we have to achieve. I look at it as, this is the collection of agents I chose to have on my team, and I want them to be at their best, and I want them to achieve their goals. So what does that look like in its entirety? And then if I have to add to it, because it might not be my total goal, then that's what I do.
Right.
But I never put my goal in someone else's court. It's their goal to achieve.
It's their goal. And how does that all work together?
Yeah, exactly. Like life, period.
I want to just point out something, because Donna and I didn't actually even realize this, but Donna started a new real estate office in our town from scratch with a handful of agents. I think we're over there. She just told me 55 agents. So if there's somebody that's pretty good at cultivating talent, and in our town alone, maybe there's 7 or 8 different options for real estate agencies to go be an agent with. So there's tremendous amount of competition, right? Yeah. The choices are endless.
Yeah.
And, you really have to be creating something special to have grown a team of 55 people in a pretty relatively short time. So I think she knows what she's talking about. Tell us more about, you were telling me a little bit earlier about, more of this goal setting process. Just talk about, there was 3 things that you have everybody do. Tell us about those 3 things.
Yeah. And everybody from a brand new agent to a top performing agent does this, and they do it with excitement, and it's really great. And I'll give you some success stories when we're done. But we do a business plan, and when you say business plan, it sounds so
boring,
rigid,
right? Yes, so rigid. Yes,
but I make it fun.
Okay.
I make it fun. So we start with, there's 3 components. I start with a vision board. And the vision board are your 3 goals. And your 3 goals have to be a combination of personal and professional, because I believe you're one person.
Yes.
And
you bring your whole self to work.
Your whole self, exactly.
You bring your whole self into your sport.
Yeah.
So yes, you've got to, we can't pretend like, if I were to just interrupt and say one thing that I love about the pandemic is that we literally got to be ourselves.
Yeah, we did.
We saw all the madness in our homes, right? We saw news anchors with kids running up to them. Like, we just were finally human. And I think people appreciate that so much. Do you think your team values that? Have you heard anyone talk about that?
I think they do, because I think work-life balance is, we always talk about that, because we all have a life outside of work.
Yep.
But it's balancing the two. It's very difficult at times.
And I'm going to tell you that, like, for me, I threw out the word balance, because there wasn't balance. It wasn't 50-50.
Right.
But was the right mix right for me in the moment? And the better I got at being fluid about that,
right,
the better I started performing.
Absolutely. And you can't, there's no excuse for it.
Right.
Everybody has a life. I remember when Chris was 9. And I think I told you this story. I was selling. I wasn't managing at the time.
Oh, yes,
or coaching. I was selling.
Yep.
And I was taking him to like one of his games, and he was in the back seat. And I got a call. I put it on speakerphone, and my client wanted to see a property at 2:00 in the afternoon that Saturday. And I said, I'm so sorry, but I have an appointment at 2:00 on Saturday, but I'll be free by 4. Are you free? And can we schedule, the showing at that time? And they were. And I was like, that is great. And I got off the phone. And my poor son in the back was about to cry because he said to me, Mom, what do you mean you have an appointment at 2:00 on Saturday? That is my game. And I said, Chris, you are my appointment. And that is what it's all about.
Boom, right? Yes. And I think gosh, whether it's for a parent, whether it's for, performance from an athlete, does somebody care about you?
Yeah.
And how do you show people you care? You show up for them.
Yeah.
You make them important.
Yeah. And that's
a sea of important things.
Yep.
And that's what I'm saying. The balance isn't always there, but can you flex between what's important is oftentimes just that little shift that people need to make in order to not feel guilty, mom guilt, right? Who doesn't have the mom guilt? I did away with it. I know the more time I take for myself, the more time I put into other people, ultimately, the more time I have with my family.
Yeah, you took control.
Because I have teams that are running. Things can operate without me. I've pretty much managed my schedule and work things so effectively in my own mind and my own ability that I can fluidly step in and out of my business, which didn't always used to be the case for me.
No, I think we had to grow into that and be comfortable in it, but we also had to value ourselves, right? And value our time. And I think we're better when we do take time for ourselves.
Yes, agreed.
Because our output in helping others is there's a lot more quality in that.
Let's talk about that, because I think there's a great place for us to talk about some really cool things happening in the world of high performance sports that are really geared towards building resiliency and having people take intense periods of rest along with intense periods of activity. So I feel like at work, we put the pedal to the metal. We don't take our foot off, especially if people are really motivated, and that they ultimately burn themselves out. So talk about a little bit about what athletes are doing that you've seen to help them recover quickly and to make sure that they're in their best physical condition in order to be a high performance player.
I think everybody, it's a great question. And I think if you ask that question, to an athlete, you might get a different answer from each one, because everybody kind of, they chill in a different way, right? But high performance athletes, unless you are playing a singular sport like golf or something, they're pretty much team oriented. So I think the best thing to do is to really look at how the team gels together and how they help each other in that unit. So for instance, my son is playing summer baseball for the New Britain Bees in Connecticut out of the Futures League. It's a New England league. They play in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And so he's away for the summer.
Which I'm going to interrupt 1 second, because this was new to me too. Again, I don't have children playing at that competitive level. But I think what we lose sight of is that what's available for you in your local town, you outgrow it.
Yeah, it's a great place to start.
Right? You need to be open and willing to go other places. And, sometimes this requires you to send your child, to places by themselves that, might feel a little bit uncomfortable. So good for you for, embracing all of those things.
Absolutely.
But continue back on your story.
Sure. And so I do think it's really important when you do send your child away, right? To know a little bit about the person in charge, who that leader is, because they're framing your child. Exactly. And if it's a good fit, then that is that child's going to bloom and blossom, and that leader is going to get the best out of them. So it's really important to put your child in the hands of somebody that is going to do that for them, right? This particular coach is phenomenal. He's all about, these kids and showcasing them. And then they're there for them to get their reps over the summer and keep practicing. But they're a combination of D1, D2, D3 baseball players across the New England area.
Which is
actually
really
across the country.
Like very competitive.
Yeah.
They all play at a very high league.
100%. I mean,
they're playing year round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just had a pitcher out of Western New England, and it's a D3 school that he threw a historic no-hitter. These
crazy.
Kids are playing lights out when they get there, but they are inspiring each other, and I think that's the takeaway.
Do you think that's different now? Because it used to be, just, kind of that authoritarian style. Do you see a lot more of that? A lot more of, broadening the scope of how do you become successful? It's not just 100% play, right? But
Correct.
it's factoring in all these other things: rest, mindset.
Mindset is huge.
I mean, huge. I'm sure in your son's experience, I know my nephew plays D1 baseball. He played in a competitive high school team. They literally hired mindset coaches for them.
Yeah.
So in addition to their regimen, it's almost like I would equate it to executive leadership, executive coaching at a corporate level is what they're getting. Are you seeing those types of things as well?
I am, but not. It depends on where you are.
Okay.
It depends on what, again, it goes back to the leadership.
Yeah.
And what what matters to them. Right. So if mindset matters to them, they're gonna drill down and invest in that to pass that on to their players.
Oh, what a great parallel. So does that mean, do you feel like if the leader doesn't think things like vision casting are important, that they won't invest in that?
Correct. Yeah. So again, if it's important to you, then you want to align yourself with a coach it's important to them. So I think every athlete should be actually interviewing the coach. But as a parent, I'm looking into doing research for the
right?
coach.
Because growing up, like you played on that team, you played for that person. There was no asking questions, right? We're seeing this dynamic really play out in the corporate space. And I think it's one of the, most exciting topics to see unfold, because our generation, you worked for free. You worked 80 hours.
Yes.
You were yes, ma'am, yes person. You were not asked your opinion. You were, and as much as I try and shift those things for me, how do you manage being raised that way? Right? And this kind of crazy dichotomy that happens when someone younger than you is like, no. Because we're seeing leaders like literally self-destruct in the world right now, having temper tantrums like you can't believe because somebody doesn't want to work 60 hours. So how are you managing that for yourself?
Well, I think that's the fear-based mentality of the past.
Yes, very fear-driven.
And it's today is a little different. And again, it's not everybody that is astute enough to really say, this is how I lead. And it's not every athlete that is looking for that kind of leadership. So that's why it goes back to the parents to say, like, what's best for your kid? You have to know your kid's personality. You have to know a good match so that coach, advisor, the person that's going to inspire them is really going to maximize their value. And you have to do what's best, what's in their best interest. So do your research. And just because there's a team out there that's doing amazing, that has, everybody wants to be on that team, that doesn't mean that's the right team for your child.
Yes.
It's just
and
like honestly, at the right school.
Yes, it's just
all the same.
Yes, right. So there's the good thing now is there's so many choices. There used to be like no choice and then one choice, but now there are choices. So you can really, you don't have to go along with the crowd. You can make really good decisions for yourself. I love that too.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does take the parent to have that mentality and also to actually guide.
Yes, and believe that that's important. Like my husband is definitely a little bit more of the, work hard mentality that we were all raised with.
Right.
And so when there are rests and breaks, that doesn't always make sense to him.
No.
So it's such an interesting,
Absolutely.
it's such an interesting dichotomy to be in.
Yeah.
We're really seeing that shift and change. And how do you catch up with that?
Yeah. And I think, again, it goes back to the parent. I'll tell you what I'm reading. You're going to laugh.
No, tell me.
I'm reading Paul O'Neill's book, A Swing and a Hit.
Okay.
Not a swing and a miss.
Oh, okay.
A swing and a hit. I love this book. And he talks about how when he was young, his father was his biggest mentor. And it was all about inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And there was any time that he had a bad game, his father never put him down. It was just about, look at it this way, and there's always the next game. You change this a little bit, and you'll be fine. Now let's go get some ice cream. So it's about processing. It is about mindset.
It is about
but
mindset.
it's always about
It's also about
love and care.
Love and care always wins. As long as you're
Exactly.
coming with a loving, caring attitude to anything, you're always going to be on the right foot.
Yep, absolutely.
You're always going to be on the right foot. How do you? How do you, like that book that you're reading? Are you bringing those principles into your leadership style and into your?
Yep. Always. And you know what also? It was really interesting because I love basketball. So I played basketball when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the NCAA tournament and it was so many good games.
Right.
There were no blowouts. They were just really concrete, solid competition. It was great. But not everybody was doing great at times. But what I always saw, and these are coaches who are coaching at an elite level, coaching elite athletes, they never got down on their player.
Yes.
That just screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
They were always like, nope, it's okay. And they kept them in a positive mindset.
There's a really great little clip that was circulating around. A player shot, missed. It happens a lot, right? And he had his head down and his co-player came by and lifted up his chin.
Yep.
Just those little, how do you keep people elevated? It's the team, it's the coach, it's the self.
Yep.
I have been really looking at myself personally, some very holistic type techniques. So I've recently gotten into, and I've been investing a lot of money in being muscle tested. Have you ever heard about this?
I have.
Have you ever done it?
I have not.
Oh my goodness. If you ever want to, I have such an amazing person. She's trained in something called the emotion code, the body code, sometimes it's called, but she can actually, through muscle testing, read my level of internal energy, which is what you actually connect to people with. Isn't that fascinating? We think it's how we're dressed. We think it's, the suit we're wearing. We think it's the way in which we speak, but it's actually that when you say people have a secret power, when you meet somebody and you just feel like you're connected or not connected, it's based a lot on those energetic frequencies that we all have. So that for me has been a total game changer in my performance, really understanding that about myself.
100%.
So I would put that on the list as well.
I agree. And we talk about in the office a lot, and I also talk to Chris about this a lot, is manifestation.
Oh my gosh, please, we could go on forever about that.
It is
I manifest
favorite.
the hell out of things. Do you?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I tell my team to do the same for themselves, because the more energy you
There's
put out
energetic
there in the universe, it is coming back to you.
Yep.
And it works. It works. And when it does work, they call me. They're like, I was manifesting a new listing and I got a call and I can't believe it, and it worked. And it's so funny. But again, it all comes back to the mindset shift.
I had a business client call me yesterday and she said, that whale thing you talked about? She's like, it literally happened.
Yeah.
She said, I went out and I bought a board and I wrote whale and I left the open block. And she said, I got the biggest contract of my life. And there's an energetic, it's all energetics. Yeah. So I love this whole concept in this conversation. I'm going to leave it with this. Do you have a mantra? Because I think mantras to me, if people have a hard time stomaching the word manifestation because it sounds too wooey, mantra is your go-to because mantra does everything, right? It puts you in a future state. It's a rhythmic thing that you can do, which actually calms your biology.
Yeah.
So if you've activated a fight or reflight response, you can knock that off in a minute. And I have found that they have literally propelled me to complete things that my mind and my physical body told me were not possible. It's how I finished the marathon. Like I did the New York City Marathon, and I was crying all the way through Brooklyn. No, all the way through the Bronx. And I got into a rhythm with my mantra, which was, yes, you can, just keep going. And that got me through the worst part of the end of that race and allowed me to finish. Do you have anything like that you use?
We have a lot. And what I always like to say, and then I'll kind of pull it together a little bit tighter, right? Because it's a little easier, is that what you focus on expands.
Oh, yes. Good or bad. Good
but
or
you
bad.
Focus on expand. So if someone's having a bad day and they focus on that, it's going to continue to be a bad day. So you need to shift.
It can get a whole lot worse.
Oh, yeah, it can.
Yeah.
So what you focus on expands. So just change it. You change it.
I love it.
And I love that statement. I always say it. Yep.
I like it.
But when it comes to actually performing, right? I like to say, I can, I will. Because it's positive and it just calms me. It's like, I can do this, It's almost like the Nike.
You can get into like a rhythmic trance with it. Like there's a lot, like we can't talk about theta brainwaves and all these other things that are such like unknown topics that influence performance. But those little things like that are how you get there.
Right.
Say it for me again. I can, I will.
I can, I will.
I
can, I will. And it's just confidence. Not anything other than just calming yourself down and knowing that, you are capable.
I love it.
Capable,
well, honestly, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. You were a phenomenal leader when I was with you. I'm not surprised to hear things are going so well for you.
Thank you.
If you're thinking about a career in real estate and you're someone in the Long Island market, I would definitely highly recommend that you connect with Donna, because she does play, she plays the long game and she plays from that place of positive mindset, positive mentality, and that shows. And I appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Have a happy 4th of July.
Oh, yes.
Enjoy.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.